Well, let's get more on this now with political analyst Joe Siracusa, who joins us from Perth, Australia. He's author and Dean of Global Futures at Curtin University. Good to have you back with us, Professor. There's a lot on the agenda for global leaders who are gathering for the UN General Assembly. Of course, this is happening under the spectre of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. How prominently will that war feature during all the leaders' remarks and discussions, do you think?
Good to see you, Oscar. I don't think it's going to feature as much as the other problems. Climate change, climate justice, acute food shortages, and the like. I mean, it's going to be sort of a theatrical moment, and we'll all enjoy seeing it. But the Secretary General, Guterres, has been making it very clear in the last 6 months that in many respects, there are structural problems with the UN that can't solve these problems. You know, he knows that global climate change is just about beyond the reach. So now he's dealing with adaptation and that kind of thing, or moderating it. And he knows that the Africans should be sitting at the Security Council, maybe the Indians, maybe some other European power. He's very frustrated that the United Nations is no longer fit for purpose. Don't get me wrong, the middle-sized nations love going to the UN. It's a chance for them to come together and to show some weight, to have a weighty place on the stage. But Guterres knows that the problems are among the great powers. And if the great powers are not in the mood to do anything about it, the problems do not get solved. Sustainable development goals are in the background. These are very important. But again, you know, the World Bank isn't capitalized enough to deal with the problems. Guterres is very frustrated. So you know what the discussions will be on the sidelines. You know, we need a little more money, we need a little more reform-mindedness. But look, if I were going to the UN, I've had a chance to go a couple times on nuclear arms control, I think I'd be watching the Zelensky thing and the Russian minister. That'll be a very good moment. And you know, Guterres has said publicly, Oscar, that you know, he'd love to be a peacekeeper in Ukraine, but there's no peace. And he thinks that in the short term, there isn't going to be a ceasefire, which I would like to see, a ceasefire without preconditions. But, you know, right now, the two sides are too hardened. Zelensky's fighting for his life, and the Russians are fighting to the end. So not much is going to be solved there. But the United Nations has an important role to play. And what it has to do is it has to sort of come to modern, it has to be fitted to purpose. That is, it is a multilateral organization that no longer responds to multilateral problems. It has to be more effective. Yes. There has to be more money in the bank and the rest of it. So it's going to be a very interesting session.
It sure will. And you mentioned earlier there that it looks like prominent countries from the global south, such as India and South Africa, may be looking to reassert themselves at this global forum. We know the Turkish president has also in the past said that the United Nations is in a way antiquated, that the world is in fact bigger than the 5 permanent powers of the UN Security Council. Do you think there'll be any real moves there to ensure that countries from the global south and other emerging powers are actually included in major decision-making processes at the UN?
I think there will be ways to fit them into the major decision-making, but we still need structural changes. I'd love to see Turkey in the Security Council, and India, and some of the prominent South African countries. I mean, it's not possible to have a world today without having the great middle-sized powers involved, and Guterres knows that, as a matter of fact. So, look, the United Nations is frozen in time. In 1945, it represented the winning powers in the Second World War. And they sort of divided up the world and the responsibilities. There were only, you know, a couple dozen countries at the time. Today we got 193. We got multiple problems. We got climate change, which is beyond the reach. And of course, Guterres wants climate justice. You know, he wants to know who's going to write the checks for these countries that are sinking under the water. I mean, this is very, very important because a number of these countries, Oscar, they're just not going to make it.
Okay, Professor Joe Siracusa, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much as always for joining us on the program.
Thank you.